Hi, I'm Sam Sells, and welcome to my podcast, Clean Money. I like to say investing matters, and my show is to talk with everyday folks that are not only creating great success, but making an impact in society and improving the lives of others. That is my mission, and I want to share my stories and others with you. Welcome to Clean Money. All right, thank you everyone for joining us today for another great episode of Clean Money, where we talk about making a difference in the world through our investments of time and resources. My guest today is none other than the Wally Bressler, who is, if you haven't heard his name, you should have, and you need to. So I'm just to introduce you to Wally. Following a massively successful run as a real estate agent and broker, Wally started coaching and training agents and teams, including industry titans like Jay Kinder and Michael Reese, and then worked with them to help them grow coaching organization to generate more than $5 million in annual recurring revenue. Additionally, he helped strengthen their affiliate relationships with real estate lead providers, Tiger Leads, Boomtown, Commissions Incorporated, and Market Maker Leads. Since then, Wally has worked with top agents across the United States and Canada to help their agents improve their conversion skills and bring in more profits. He has helped top agents build multi-million-dollar producing sales organizations, all while conducting over 40,000 one-on-one coaching calls, live trainings, in-person presentations, and over-the-phone coaching sessions. With that experience, Wally now runs the Trigger Sales System, helping entrepreneurs and sales professionals at all levels overcome their sales call reluctance in order to be more effective in building their business and recruiting to build greater revenue than ever before. Wally, thank you for joining the show.
Thank you. It's just a nice way of me telling you I'm old.
Yeah, that's it. Like the older we get, the longer that thing gets, right?
Really, right? It's going to have to be like on a paper towel roller. You know what I'm saying? Just keep it out until you're done. So yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thanks so much, man. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your book you have coming out, Tragic Hero.
Yeah.
Picking up the pieces, because I love the premise.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's based on the traditional or classical representation of a tragic hero, which is somebody who is here and due to arrogance and not paying attention to things and just not thinking that bad things can happen, has a very, very terrible fall and spends time at the bottom and realizes that they are the reason that their life is screwed up and why they've had the fall. And basically they climb themselves back up and then exist as an example for other people to help them avoid some of the same pitfalls that made. So that's been pretty much the story of my life. Most people's lives are like this. My life was like this. I kind of, there were some peaks and valleys, but they were much lower than everybody else's peaks and valleys, due to, my life choices partially. But, so actually the book came out last September. Essentially, it really comes from, the tough childhood that I had and, building from the bad things that happened with addictions, sex, pornography, food and money, and, being bullied the entire time that I was, a child up until age 13 or so, being denied food as a child for punishment, being sexually abused at 10, looking at pornography at 11, having sex at 12. And so by the time I was 14, I was a mess. Really didn't have really any good self-esteem, any level of self-esteem, I should say, a lot of self-loathing, and then kind of went on, a destructive path of self-sabotage for the next, let's call it 30 plus years, almost 40 years. And, I was unfaithful to my ex-wife 4 times. I probably blown about $5 million. I went to federal prison for 1 count of mail fraud. My former business partner lied on about $15 million worth of mortgages. And even though I wasn't trying to steal money, I was involved. My name was on paperwork and I had to accept responsibility for that.
Yeah.
My parents both died relatively young. My dad, 49, my mom, 64. And so I just spent my entire life trying to avoid all the pain that was coming, Yeah. And if you looked at my life from the outside, you would have said, wow, he's doing really well. I graduated, pretty high in my class in high school. I won a couple of awards for playing football in high school. I went to like the number 13 liberal arts college in the country, lettered 4 years in football, 3 years in track. I was making 100 grand by the time I was 28 back in, the late 90s, married, 4 kids. So, I mean, all that looked great, but, I was just basically suffering miserably, you know what I'm saying? And so, after I got out of prison, I met someone. We dated for 4.5 years. I asked her to marry me. She said yes, and then she wouldn't move down here. And I finally broke up with her. And I found out about 3 days after I broke up with her that she actually had never divorced her husband and was still married the entire time we were together. And so,
Wow.
for me, that was like the last bad decision in a string of decades of bad decisions. And so, about a month later, I decided I was going to take my own life. And probably an hour away, maybe, just trying to figure out how I was going to kill myself. And it's like God tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, remember when it was like when your dad died, you guys were all young, you got 4 kids, you can't do this." And so, I spent several years after that working on myself and finally doing the work necessary to become the person that I was meant to be, and to really create a great life for myself. And so the book really is about the lessons that I learned along the way and how I overcame those things, and how anybody, no matter how old they are, or how much crap they've been through, or how long ago it was, or how many bad things they did, they can make the changes they want. They're not stuck the way that they are, and they can do what they need to do to create a great life and business for themselves. And I work with a lot of real estate agents, and so that's what I've been doing and helping them overcome procrastination, self-sabotage, perfectionism, and all kinds of other stuff, imposter syndrome, that keeps them from getting on the phone and making phone calls, getting in front of a video camera for social media, and all kinds of other stuff that keeps them from really enjoying the life that they want and having the kind of success that a guy like you would have. You know what I'm saying? And granted, it's not easy. What you've been through is not easy, but clearly you've made the mental and emotional shifts and changes and what you've needed to go ahead and create great things for yourself. And the difference between you and other people is that you're an implementer. You've taken the steps to do what you need to do, and you have high belief in yourself. And even though you might be scared about something, you don't let that fear stop you.
Right. Yeah.
And the people that aren't having success are letting that fear stop them. And my book is about how to take that fear head on and then overcome it. So maybe that's more than you wanted, but that's kind of the Reader's Digest version.
Oh, thank you. That's perfect. So
Okay, thanks.
I've spent a lot of time in the poorest countries of the world. I've seen a lot of what poor really means. I've seen a lot of just disastrous families, disastrous places, public policies, and
Right.
and everything else. And we have one life, right? This is our life. And we can't control what people have done to us, right? But we do determine, and sometimes we screw up, and like there could be people that say, "Hey, Wally, you picked that partner, you should have known, so it's your fault," right?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess, right, you didn't know that they were going to do that thing, but you stood up and you took the responsibility, even though it was terrible, right?
Yeah.
The penalty was terrible.
No doubt. To your point, and I think this is kind of the issue for a lot of people is, once you know that there's something you can do about what happened to you, you're no longer a victim.
Yeah.
Right. Will Smith has a video. It's called Fault versus Responsibility. It's like, hey, may not be your fault that you were sexually abused. May not be. It's definitely not your fault you got sexually abused. It's not your fault that your father was, an abusive alcoholic. It's not your fault that you were bullied in school. But the fact of the matter is, if you want a better life, if you want a better version of you, it is your responsibility.
Yeah.
It's your job to resolve that. So with this relationship with this woman, I had to accept responsibility that I stayed longer than I should have.
Mm-hmm.
There were 4 million red flags that I overlooked, but it's not because I was being stupid. It was because I really never had great experience with women, and I wanted to be loved so badly in a relationship so badly that I just let so many things go by. And I think a lot of people do that. They stay someplace way too long, hoping it will work, think it'll work, when really it's just worse. And so, I think we have to accept responsibility for the actions we take. But we also have to look at the fact that the actions we took weren't necessarily from a position of being stupid, dumb, lazy, and more so from not getting the guidance, the direction, the support, the information we needed to make good decisions in life. And as a result of that, we made those decisions. So you always have to accept responsibility for what you did, but you can't beat yourself up as to why you did it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And, we've had struggles,
Excuse me.
we've had struggles with properties. I have 20 something, that we have, and we still have. We've done 15 or so syndications.
Nice.
Um, the good times are good, and the bad times are can be bad. And it's, learning how to overcome those things, and persevering. I find it's really interesting when something goes awry. Um, some people are just like, they just lose their minds. I mean, it's just, and all I can think is like, you must have had a really easy life. Um, because if you have been through real deep lows, you would say, oh, okay, yeah, we got this. We can overcome this challenge. And,
If I can, layer one thing on top of that,
yeah.
it's these things happen where we're sexually abused or emotionally abused or physically abused, or we're bullied, or had alcoholic parents, or parents got divorced and mean stepdad, mean stepmom, or even parents. We had people who had parents who fought all the time, and even people had parents that never fought. Which also, excuse me, creates challenges. But I think what it comes down to is, does that experience trigger, when it triggers your fight or flight response, does it trigger fight or does it trigger flight? For most people, it triggers flight.
Yeah.
Makes sense. And so
Yeah.
they may have hit the lows, but then they avoid the pain at all costs. And what happens is that, unfortunately, a lot of people need what I needed, which is to hit rock bottom, or to get to the point that the pain was just rock bottom. The pain is so bad you just can't take it anymore.
Yeah.
My goal in life is to make sure that people make the changes they want without having to hit rock bottom. That they take the suck they've been going through and let that be enough pain to motivate them.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, same, it's awareness, being aware of why it happened. But there are some people that are, had shitty, crappy childhoods, and they're fighters and they fight back. I was a runner. It took me until, age of 49 to decide I was not going to let it happen anymore, but the better part of 5 decades. So yeah, I mean, there are people, if you let the adversity shape you and you grow from it and you become a better person as a result of it, yeah, 100%. And a lot of people, unfortunately, they look at the things that happen and they beat themselves up and look at those things negatively, rather than like, I'm as resilient as an armadillo. What I'm saying? I'm a cockroach. I can take a direct hit from a nuclear bomb and live.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
once, I'm saying, but once you get that awareness that you've been through all this and that it actually can serve you, that's when it serves you at a high level. But if you don't, then I'm a failure, I'm terrible. No, this is just another horrible thing. Oh, bad things like this happen to me all the time. And then you fold like a card table with a Buick on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. How's that for a bitching? So
Good. And I'm
makes
sorry, I laugh because it's real. I mean, this is life, right?
yes, yeah.
It is.
Like you said, we only get one life. What do they say? There's no replays. There's no do-overs. I mean, there are do-overs. In certain things. I'm saying. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're, I'm a second chance person. I've been given multiple chances. I'm saying I've been given multiple chances. I'm at least a second chance, sometimes a third chance guy. But there's certain things you don't get to do over. You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't get to go back to 2005 and 6 and decide that the guy I'm working with is somebody I shouldn't trust and shouldn't do real estate investing with. I'm saying that I don't get to do over. But going forward, I can make sure that I make good decisions. You can believe that I read everything in triplicate, like before I sign anything now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is. It's kind of like an uncomfortable laughter. Your laughter, or an unbelief, like a laughter out of disbelief. Like, oh my god. So I completely get that.
Yeah. Yeah. These lessons, if you don't let them topple you over, they make you a better person. They make you a better
100%.
businessman.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I will, and now when I look at documents or, legal contracts from lenders, I'm like, no, not signing that. Take it back. This needs to get fixed. This needs to get fixed.
Yeah.
And it hasn't gone to my attorney yet. I'm not going to waste his time because I already can tell this isn't going to happen. And if you're not going to do it, I'll find another lender. And their response to that will tell me right away. If they come back and say, well, you have to, I'm like, you're done. Right. You're done. Sorry. You're a loan to own shop.
Sayonara.
Yeah, sayonara. Like, it's not, I'd rather lose money right now and lose this deal, because once I sign this, you're going to kill me. Yeah.
Oh yeah. You didn't recall the acceleration clause with the additional 10% interest after a year, and my ability to call the loan due at any time or take $50,000 from you to put you off 3 months. You didn't see that fine print?
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I literally have had the bad experience of
Only takes one.
yeah, only one where it's like, that was one day late. We are accelerating the note. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's only one day late. I'm like, well, there's no default clause in here. And so since there's not, it's automatically determined that anything beyond one day is in default. You're like,
Let me guess.
got
Let me
to be
guess how many times. Let me guess how many times that happened to you again.
zero. But, there's folks out there, well, you shouldn't have never done it in the first place. I'm like, come
That's
on.
how we learn. That's how we learn in life, folks.
What?
Like, you know what? Like, it's funny because, I mean, first of all, social media has made cowards out of so many people,
Yeah.
right? Sharing their opinion. Opinions are opinions. They're neither right nor wrong. They're just opinions. But, people have gotten accustomed to hammering somebody else saying they should have seen that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't see things until you actually get hit by them sometimes,
Right.
Like,
yeah.
I mean, they're like, Wally, you should have seen this coming. You should have seen that coming. You know what? Had I had the faculties and the skill sets that, kids who have parents that can pour into them and do the things that they needed to do, yeah, I probably would have seen it. You know what? But when you were poor and your parents never taught you anything about money, and, you saw how different you were from other kids in school, and you had this less than feeling, this physical sickness around money created in such a way that every penny I made, I spent to become friends with people, to get to know them better. You know what I'm saying? Intellectually, I knew I was screwing up, but emotionally, I was like, oh, it's okay. I can make more. I can make more.
Yeah.
That's the cry of the real estate agent. I'll just sell another house, that I was victim to,
Yeah.
But just because you can see it doesn't mean you see it. You see what
That's
I'm
right.
saying?
Yeah.
And so your point's extremely well taken, though. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I grew up poor. I mean, we took baths and horse troughs. We thought that was fun until it was snowing outside and then we're freezing.
No, it wasn't fun.
Yeah, it wasn't fun, right?
No, it wasn't fun.
Literally putting a fire underneath that thing, and it's like burning your butt, and you're freezing up top. And my dad wasn't teaching us about commercial real estate.
No,
he wasn't talking stocks. No, money. No, I thought rich people made $35,000 a year. That's when I thought you were rich. And so we used to say, "Oh, look at them driving that new truck. They're fancy. They're egotistical. Or whatever." I'm like, no.
They're living life. They're probably getting by just a little bit better than you are.
Just a little bit better, right? They like the truck. It's not about whatever. It's status. It is status, of course. Everything's status, but
it's interesting the belief system you put in our head. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's crazy.
That's it. So we do this to ourselves. Like I had to convince myself that I was never going to get there in single family. I was active duty military. I was,
Are you serving the country?
Yeah.
Well, thank you for serving our country. Were you at Fort Hood? Is that why you stayed in that area?
No, I was actually, my last duty station was Alaska.
Oh, another warm place. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Nice and warm, toasty there all year long.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you for serving our country, man. Appreciate it. Thank you.
My pleasure. I would do it again in a heartbeat. But the military was like, Sam, you can't be in anymore. You got migraines, whatever. And I just face to face with the reality is like, oh my goodness, I have to go make an income again.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I have some real estate, but it's not making beans. I mean, $300 a month extra over a house payment. The person doesn't make their payment. I lose out an entire year's worth of salary.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
That doesn't work. And so it's like, how do I change? My dad has no retirement because he's working construction and had no retirement. He literally had $80,000 in his 401k, and that was it. 65 years old, 80 grand, zero. Just got laid off because his company got bought by another company, and they laid off all the senior staff. Gone. Got another job, got bought out again, laid off, and it's just like, what do we do? We have all these people retiring. They don't know how to do money because they're never taught. Schools are ridiculous. Why don't you teach people how to use money? It's one of the most important skills of our entire life. Even the economics class is terrible. And there's one. I mean,
it's interesting, and it's hard to future pace things for people using your own life experiences.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. Like you've got to get them emotionally involved in a future pace. Like, my son, for instance, I'll give you an example. Super sharp kid, decided he didn't want to go to high school. No problem. I mean, college, no problem.
Yeah.
College isn't for everybody. Quite honestly, I'm not going to, spend 5 figures a year to fund your partying and for you to figure out you don't want things out. So, he's getting his real estate license, and he's been studying for class, and which is good.
Yeah.
I might be able to teach him a few things, but like, we got to work until you get your license. So he got a job at a pizza place, and he called me the other day. He says, man, I got to get this class finished and get out of here. He's like, I don't want to, I'm saying, I don't want to keep doing this every day. He's like, I smell, and people keep not showing up. And I'm like, well, that's, and look, here's the thing. I mean, you've got Gary V and other people who are jumping up and down, going, go to college, don't go to college. I mean, look, I went to college. It served me well. I've got tons of great connections that helped me grow. I mean, it's not for everybody, but if you're not going to go to college, you need to get something that's going to give you an opportunity to grow as a person, and then learn, so you can not just learn life things, but also business things at the same time, So, but yeah, there's, you got a future pace, and that's why I brought this up originally is, I'm like, think about this. Do you want to be 40, 50 years old slinging pizzas or managing a pizza place? You know what I'm saying? I mean, which is fine. If you want to manage a pizza place, all good. You know what I'm saying? But if
I love pizza. I want somebody to manage that thing. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. But I'd be willing to bet that if we went to the average pizza manager and said, would you like to make more money? I bet every one of them would say, yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So again, look, my dad was a letter carrier. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they put me through college. I don't judge anybody. All I'm saying is a lot of people want more out of life. You know what I'm saying? And if you're not what it takes to get more out of life, and you're just happy to keep doing what you're doing, then it's going to suck.
Yeah, that's it. It's not that we can't get out. It's that we don't know how to get out. We have a system that is rigged to keep us down. And if you don't believe me, okay, show me a course in high school that teaches you how to make money. Okay.
How to save money.
Or how to save money. Or do anything with money. Okay. Yep. Show me one. Your closest thing is probably shop that may teach you how to weld or something like that.
Economics.
Yeah. Home economics. Okay. Other than that, like, I worked at Chick-fil-A through high school, high school, and learned that that's not what I wanted to do when I grew up. I did not want to be in, selling chicken sandwiches. I love eating chicken sandwiches, but that's not what I want to do when I grew up.
Right.
So.
Right. 100%. Yeah.
But I had no idea because I wasn't exposed to other things. And it's like, okay, you want to be a doctor, an engineer, you have to go to college. And great. And so I went, I got a couple of associate's degrees. I got a bachelor's degree. I ended up getting a master's degree. All great stuff and great experience. And I've learned a lot, and I know how to analyze things a lot better. But at the end of the day, the things that have helped me make money were things that I had to learn on my own.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And so this is where, if we can bring it all the way back to the beginning, this is where awareness kicks in, right? Being aware of, if something's keeping you from getting where you want to go, you got to become aware that there's something that's happening, and that you've got to go figure out what that was and resolve it so that you can continue to move forward.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you knew, you're like, I got all these degrees, I've got all this education, I've got all this, this work experience, but hey, when I'm this many years old, my dad is going to need somebody to take care of him. Like, how do I get to this next level? How do I even get out of my own way so I can create the life that I want for myself? And I think that's where a lot of people are stuck, especially real estate agents. That's when they're really stuck, because for what it's worth, most people, when they get into the real estate business, don't learn how to build a business. Yeah. They don't even, they're taught how to, we call the transaction treadmill. Here's how you sell a house. Here's how you sell another house. Here's how another house, sell another house. Nobody says put money away for core capital. Nobody says, only invest so much money in marketing, advertising. Nobody says, hey, listen, if you're going to be super successful, you got to get on the phone and call like a madman or a mad woman until you can get enough business coming in. Nobody says, hey, this is when you hire an assistant. This is when you hire an ISA. This is when you hire buyer's agents in most cases. I mean, they are now, but most people don't get that sort of education. So they get in, they start selling houses. And, there's a reason that, 80+% of agents don't renew their license for the first time 2 years ago, because they're not taught how to do anything that's going to give them a sustainable, career.
Yeah. Where did they go? Right. Where did they go for that education? And so and so I know you started coaching, probably for that reason, the same reason I started coaching people who want to learn how to syndicate or other things. But we start all the way back at the beginning of, who are you and what do you want? What kind of life do you want? What that target tells me, like, there's all these different paths in real estate that you can take. You may not want to be a syndicator. You may want to be just your own owner operator because it's going to take you down the path that you want to go down. And that's great. We can help you on that path, but you need to understand what you want to become. And then we can educate you and help you understand how to get there. But if you don't know where you want to go, then I can't educate you in you're just going to spin your wheels like I did for years, trying to figure out how to do things, where to do things, why I should do things. I don't like that thing. I want to do something different,
Right. Yeah. I've got a good buddy of mine he's like he's like number 5 in EXP for revenue share.
Mm-hmm.
He's doing really well for himself. He's got, I think he's 63 now in real estate for a long time. And, he calls them the 3 freedoms: money freedom, time freedom, location freedom, right? That's anybody who becomes self-employed, who gets in, or, doing what you do, real estate investing. I mean, the goal is, how do I get to, money freedom, time freedom, location freedom? And that's here, and they're here today.
Yeah.
But the trip here is so hard. And, a lot of people think that, oh, I'm self-employed, so I don't have to show up today. If I don't want to work, I don't want to work. I'm saying, no. I work hard. I mean, I've been self-employed since 98, with the exception of like 2 years. So, I mean, fortunately, I've got a business now where I make money monthly, but still, I mean, there's time. And if I don't work certain times, I don't get paid,
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so it's, I think, the people get into real estate, or they become a real estate investor. And I've made some poor decisions with real estate investing too, but they don't realize how hard it is and how much work you have to do to get to those 3 freedoms. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Right. I mean, you've been doing it how long now?
So for a little over 4 years, and it was awesome. So that point of choice, the point of freedom, when you get to decide, our second deal generated, between my dad and I, it was just us two doing the deals. Our second mobile home park that we purchased. After about 6 months, we got to the point where we were both making $6,000 a month in income. And it was like, holy moly, we did this in 6 months. We didn't know squat. And so then I got smart and I made a bunch of bad choices. I bought stuff that I shouldn't have bought because
of course, because you figured it out, right?
Yeah, I got to figure it out. Like I listened to I watched a YouTube video. It worked for this one, so let's do it again.
Exactly. Like you're saying, love it or list it doesn't teach me anything about listing and selling properties. So,
no.
Flip. What is that? The
flip that house or something like that. Yeah.
I mean, that's so misleading. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I know. It's so misleading. So,
anyway.
But
right.
The thing that if I could go back in time and change anything in regards to my journey, I would have gotten a coach right then, because I would have avoided the next probably 8 purchases. By
the way, you willing to share how much you lost on those? So I'd be intrigued, just because I think that's where the lesson is.
Okay, so I have lost real dollars. I've lost at least $500,000 of real cash going.
Yep.
Okay, $500,000. Potential earnings just on one deal that I did 2 deals at the same time. One of them became a bear. And so I stopped paying attention to the other one because it was going easy. I ended up losing that deal. That deal, I would have easily made $5 million on of cash, $5 million in a year. No kidding. It was a foreclosed 260 something unit apartment complex that we were picking up for $9 million. I easily could have turned that thing around and sold it for $20 million, split it with my investors, and I would have walked away with $5 million.
So that, and so, that's it. I told, same thing for me, all the millions of dollars I've blown. I mean, it's one of these things where we think it's going to continue to come, and that we just keep doing what we're doing. It's going to keep coming that way. And it requires, looking at what's happening in life and taking those lessons and putting them to use.
Yeah. And putting them to use, because there's things that we did that nothing was wrong. Right. But if I would have been more savvy, if I would have known the lessons that I know now, we either one, never would have gotten into it in the first place, or two, we would have set up the contracts in the beginning to make sure we had a way out. Right.
But you're not going to be a good coach unless you go through stuff like that, though. That's the whole point. Why people hire us is because we probably screwed up more than most people we know. I always joke around. I've made more bad decisions and mistakes than any 2 people I know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But if you want to build a good real estate business and a great life, come to the guy who screwed it all up and put it back together, right? I mean, and it's funny. I wish I had known. Like, well, if you had known, then you would probably made the mistake earlier,
Yeah. Yeah. Either wouldn't have made the mistake or would have made it on a very small deal versus a
Yes.
very big
Right
deal.
on, right on. But
Until,
here's the thing,
yeah.
though: you're hyper resilient. You learned a truckload, and it didn't stop you. It didn't crush you. You didn't say, "I'm never going to do this again." You're like, "Okay, I got all this." You lick your wounds. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, oh, God forbid, like, oh, I'm going to sit back a little while and catch my breath. But then you're like, "We'll keep moving forward," because people need to realize that there's an unlimited amount of money out there for the people who are willing to go and get it.
That's it. That's it. When I know that somebody's been through the trenches, I listen.
Mhm.
Right. And if they haven't, then I'm like, okay, you're still pie in the sky.
Mhm.
Everything's wonderful and magical and you're 23. And I love that you made $1 million and you're 23 years old. That's fantastic. But you could easily blow that on your very next deal.
Yeah, I mean, $1 million these days. I mean, it's good, but it doesn't go as far as it used to. You know what I'm saying?
That doesn't go far. Yeah. Yeah. I used to think $5,000 was an insane amount of money. And
Yeah.
nowadays it's like,
Yeah, I just lost that last. It's in the cushions of my car. No, I'm just kidding. It's like it's
yeah,
tough.
yeah. I spent more than that on Sunday with talking to attorneys. I spent over
I know, right?
on that one.
Yeah, right. You got kids? You have kids?
I have kids. Yeah.
For then $5,000 is, it's, I mean,
Yeah.
that's school shopping for 4 kids practically. So
Yeah, it's a lunch for a week. Yeah.
literally,
With the way prices are going.
yes, exactly right. A dozen eggs.
Yeah, a dozen eggs. Yeah. Well, we've talked for a while. If you could boil down, like, if a real estate agent is listening or somebody else who's interested in getting started as a real estate agent or in real estate, what would you say to them if you could only tell them one thing or two things?
I think number one, I think the simple thing for me is you got to be willing to be an implementer. You have to take action, right? There's no amount like you don't need to learn everything about how a transaction works. Like, because a lot of people are, they need so much information, so much detail. That's just the procrastinator in them. That's the fear in them. Like, oh, I can know how to write an offer. You know what? If you go find someone who wants to buy a house, somebody help you write an offer, right? So you've got to be an implementer and you got to be willing to take action. Number one, and then you've got to be willing to be coachable and let somebody give you the feedback you need to grow. Right. I think people come in and they think they can, oh, this is easy. I can do this. And so many people I talk to, well, you may want to consider doing this. Oh, I tried that. That didn't work. I'm like, but did you try this way? They're like, it doesn't matter. I tried, like I specialize in helping people over the phone. And so I'll say to them, maybe you should say this, this, and this, and this. And they're like, well, I said that to them. Like, well, what did you say? And they say it back to me. It was nothing like what I told them, like, it's not what I said. Right. And so you've got to be coachable because that's going to collapse time for you. It's great with respect to your success level. It's going to help you be, more knowledgeable in a shorter period of time. But if you're willing to take action and then be coachable, I think anything can happen for you, real estate investing or anything else like that,
That's I 100% agree. And talking to a young man this morning he's paid money for coaching courses, never got what he wanted because it was always very general mindset and other things. And I said, well, mindset is super important, but at the end of the day, mindset's not going to help you know how to set up your business, right? Right. Like, what kind of LLC should you structure and
right,
what kind of, and so I'll teach you all the stuff you have to do.
Right. And hold you accountable too, which is important. I love this story. You go to the airport, there's 2 planes there and there's 2 pilots standing outside the planes. You go to the first pilot, the pilot's like, ooh, am I excited? I'm motivated to get you from here to our destination. I'm super excited. I just need to let you know I've never flown a plane before. Okay. I spent all night reading the manual for the plane and I was in the what do they call it? The plane where the visual plane, whatever they call that.
Yeah. The simulator. Yeah.
I was in the simulator all night. I read the whole book. So I'm excited and motivated to get you where we're going. You look at the other plane, the guy's like, look, this is really my last flight. I've been doing this for 30 years now. I flew in a Gulf War, I'd fight with my wife, not necessarily the best move, but I'm telling you what, I've been through everything. We'll get to where you need to go safely. Which plane you getting on?
Oh, yeah. All day long.
Right? Yeah. I mean, motivation's great, but skill is more important, right? Because I can be having a bad day. I cannot be terribly motivated, but I can still get done what I need to get done. So I think that's super important. One other thing about picking coaches, it's very easy to call yourself a coach these days. Like I can put together a fantastic website with an iPhone these days, and a VIX account, I'm saying? I can make you look like I'm a champ. But, has your coach done what you've wanted to do before? Have they walked the walk they're going to take you down? Do they have rest testimonials? Can they give you people to talk to that they've helped?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, and is what they have, is it duplicatable? Is
Yeah.
it proven? Is it something that you can take and put to use in your market? Right. I'm sure, you're in New Braunfels, but I'm sure if I went to, Tuscaloosa, Alabama and saw a 100-unit property, I should be able to take what you taught me and put it in place there and make it run just as well.
Oh yeah. All day.
Right. Yeah. And just because you've learned a few things about somebody does not make you a coach. Here's the other thing. Like I've done real estate investment deals, but I couldn't take somebody through a syndication or through an institutional investor deal. I don't, I'm saying the first thing I would think is probably find the funding first so you can go find a property. But after that, I don't know anything else,
Yeah.
I can set up an LLC. Right. So the whole point is, you got to know what you know and what you don't know. And be, like I said, be coachable, willing to take action, be coachable, but make sure your coach has done what you want to do and they've done it at a high level, and that whatever they're teaching you can be implemented by you in a high level,
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things I teach too, is like, look, if you want to do this thing, I'll help you go find the right coach, because, I know guys who, bought 3 Airbnbs and then they set up a master class and are coaching people how to do Airbnb successfully. And I'm just thinking, like,
I mean, that's thievery as far as I'm concerned. I mean, that literally is stealing as far as I'm concerned, because quite honestly, just in the potential legal issues that could come up with that alone scare the bejesus out of me.
yeah, if you want to do Airbnb, I know somebody who's done hundreds of them, and I will put you in contact with them, and they are fantastic. I make $0 from putting you in contact with them, but I know they'll take care of you.
That's actually another point, if I may make this. Like, a good coach is not going to like require, they're not like, well, you pay me $100 and I'll teach you this, or pay me $1,000. Like, you know what? Let's have a conversation. I'll give you 3 or 4 tips right off the get. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And they're not worried about the money because they know they're going to get paid.
Yeah.
If somebody has to squeeze you and make you pay for everything they do, then you may want to work them a little bit. So
yeah, 100%. Well, thank you so much for being on the call.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Hopefully I gave your folks what they were looking for.
Yeah. What's awesome is sometimes we find what we're not necessarily looking for. And it's a thing that we really needed to hear. And that's what we attune. And then, going back sometimes and listening again, we hear something different that meets us at our particular stage in life. So I know you've been through the highs and the lows and back on the highs. Thank you for being genuine and honest and a real person, and being open about the trials and struggles you've had in life. A lot of us have had struggles and we just don't want to share them. We keep them deep inside. But, real impact, real change can happen. I mean, it happened for you. It's happened for me. I know I'll change again as time goes.
Probably right. I've got a free offer for your folks. If they're,
Please.
A lot of folks can't connect the dots between what happened when they were younger and why they're not able to do what they need to do today. Does that make sense? They don't realize that how being bullied in school keeps them from wanting to get on the phone, Yeah. And so anybody who wants to hop on a half-hour call with me, they can go to my website, triggersalessystem.com, then grab 30 minutes with me and we can talk about it, and I can help you understand why you're not getting where you want to be with respect to, either being a great real estate agent or transitioning from being a real estate agent to an investor, because that's a huge leap. I think that's more of a mental and emotional leap than anything else. You know what I'm saying? Overcoming the fear of, what I'm saying? So if anybody that's listening to this, you want to hop on the phone with me for a Zoom with me for a half hour, I'm not going to try and sell you anything. I can probably 10, 15 minutes to tell you exactly why you're not getting done what you need to get done. That'd be my gift to your folks.
Well, thank you. We'll make sure that it's also included in the show notes. Where else can they reach you at?
Yeah, look, they can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, everywhere. It's just, if you go at Wally Bressler, it's all there. My book's available on Amazon. And then, if they want, they go to my website, triggersalessystem.com, and then they can get access to my calendar and, see some stories of some other people that have had, some success in working with me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Wally. It's been an absolute pleasure and enjoyed
Likewise. It. Thank you. Thank you, buddy.
Yeah, to speak with you today.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Thank you again for joining us for another great episode of Clean Money. Make sure you check Wally out on any one of those numerous channels, and check out the triggersalessystem.com. And please reach out and get some free 30 minutes. It's worth your time.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you again so much for joining the show.
Take care. Thanks.
Thank you for tuning in to Clean Money, where we talk about sustainable investing that improves society. We are passionate about creating great investment returns to investors who want to use their money to make a positive social impact in the world. If you enjoyed the episode, we'd appreciate a 5-star review. And if you are interested in making your investing matter, please connect with us at wildmountaincapital.com, or you can find me, Samuel Sells, on LinkedIn, on Twitter at Sells_Samuel, on Instagram at Clean Money Sam, or on Facebook. And finally, make your investing matter.